Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where I'm gonna be talking a bit about the state of minions for 1.3. I'm gonna give you guys a bit of a quick update, a bit of like, a bit of the knowledge that I've been gathering these few days. So if you want to make an educated decision of what minion to play this season, you can kind of have a bit of a direction into what to pick. Again, when I say minions, this is not including like totems and ballistas, because I know a lot of you guys don't consider those minions. Those builds haven't really changed. They're still very strong. You can check the tier list. But we're going to be talking about pure minions, minions that walk around with you and, they have HP bars and all that, okay? So the first thing that we're going to say is that the builds that were already performing really well last patch, for example, Stormcrows, basically remain as strong as before. They have got some nerfs, but they have also got some buffs. And so if you enjoyed this build, if you want to play it again, if you didn't have a chance to play it before, this build is completely playable still, and you should be completely fine. The same goes for Forged Weapons, Manifest Armor, these kind of builds. There's nothing new about them. You can experiment with the new Primordial Uniques, with the new Ancestral items, and I highly recommend you having fun with that. But since this haven't really changed outside of that, let's talk about the new stuff. All right. We're going to start talking about Necromancer, okay? Necromancer has got the least changes if we compare it to Primalist, but they're still kind of significant. Obviously, Abomination has been completely reworked, right? And Abomination is 100% going to be a top build. However, it's still Abomination, it's still gonna be tedious, and I'm sorry to ruin the fantasy here. Yes, they have fixed gear snapshotting, so you're not gonna be changing your gear, but they have not fixed skill snapshotting, and this has been confirmed by Mike. I can show you guys the screenshot, but basically, someone asks on Discord, hey, if we summon Abomination, what happens, with golems and stuff, what happens if we take off the golems of my bar? Nothing changes. Obviously, what that means is that the golem doesn't remember what's on your bar, and therefore you can do some shenanigans, right? You can take this to the extreme, or you can take this to very, very, very tame. On the build guide here, we don't include any snapshotting other than just like you put the minions on your bar, you do the summoning, and then you just play. But just know that I will have a full video where I will explain how this build can get a lot of power if you spec Infernal Shade and you do all of these things. So again, if you want to maximize the power of this build, you can still snapshot some things like skills, etc. Put infinite Infernal Shade on it, etc. I've been asking the devs and stuff, and it seems like those things are not changed. We will see though when the patch hits, and I will add confirmation. Maybe I add a variant on the planner, etc. Okay, so there is basically two variants of Abomination, right? We have the Archer variant, and we have the melee variant, right? The main difference is like when you go on the skill tree, the melee variant, which is going to be the core version, the more straightforward, the more like similar to the old Abomination you always known. You spec into Double Strike, and the good thing about Double Strike is that it gets 20 more damage per minion, right? And instead, the arrow minion, it focuses on this ethereal arrow. But there's a lot of question marks about how this ability actually functions. So we believe it can be pretty good, especially for clearance stuff. But we can't really promise you it will be good until we actually go in game and we see mechanically, can you have multiple of them on an objective? Can you have multiple out at the same time? Can this, hit multiple enemies at the same time? Because we know they have based this skill on Heartseeker, but we don't really know how it will actually behave in game. So again, if you go this, you should be doing crazy amounts of damage, like again, if you play the DPS version with the 200 weapon because you're not playing hardcore or whatever, you don't care about tankiness, you don't run any block, you still get a lot of HP. This build is gonna, you know, surpass the 100 million DPS, no problem. And in the endgame version with full block, you know, stacking endurance and all that, you're gonna be doing half that, right? So 50 million DPS, like with very basic gear, is completely doable. You know, like Abomination is gonna, you know, based on the calculations we've done, it's gonna easily crit the dummy for, like, you know, double strike is gonna do boom boom 20 million, 20 million, boom boom 20 million, 20 million, and that's not counting possible snapshotting, you know, with Infernal Shade, with Drip Blood, etc, etc. That's without it. Okay, if you do that, you can imagine. Okay. So this build is still extremely strong, but, you know, the most notable thing that is going to feel different for those who are concerned with the playstyle, the summoning process is still going to be absolute dog shit, but they actually buffed the radius of the basic attack and the abilities, and the radius is basically the base diameter of the skill, which is what area scales off. So when you grab this area nodes here, and when you grab this amulet with this new affix that gives you increased area, etc, etc, you know, like, I'm pretty sure the area is gonna be, you know, like half the screen kind of thing. You know, it's gonna be a big fucking smash. So that should be pretty fun. But, you know, it's still gonna be, we'll see how the AI behavior, you know, makes it, if we have to wait a lot for him, all that kind of stuff. So again, if you don't like it, you don't like it. But if you do like it, this build is gonna be very broken. Definitely an S tier build when it comes to power. Definitely annoying and very niche and for very particular people. But just know that this is very strong. Again, we're utilizing some old technology, like, you know, trying to couple block chance, etc. But we actually are able now with the Tyrannosaurus relic, we are actually able to stack endurance. We'll see, we're gonna have a lot of endurance stacking, and that way we not also get our block cap through endurance. You will see I have my block capped. It's missing some endurance from the planner that is not showing. We have block cap without actually building any block, right? And, you know, the endurance is gonna give us damage. We're gonna get a shit ton of block effect. He's gonna, you know, he's gonna frack basically, right? He's gonna do a lot of damage. You build minion damage. You're gonna have to get crit chance because now they have nerfed Ore of Decay. They have nerfed the Egoism node. It no longer gives you guaranteed crit, so you actually have to work for your crit. Fortunately, they have given us some passives, you know, like, you know, 100% increased crit chance here. That is now useful. You have the increased crit chance per intelligence. You have the crit chance, flat crit chance here. So again, the crit chance should be solvable, but you're going to have to be stacking intelligence to do so, okay? Again, very strong build. Now, because the nerf of Dreadshade, we also have a bit of a problem when it comes to builds that were not getting easy crit, right? And builds like Roid Mage, you know, single minion, single Raid Lord, single Mage. If you like that playstyle, there is no reason to place these builds instead of Abomination at all, right? Again, like I said, the first summoning can be a bit tedious, but it's extremely powerful. But yeah, just know that if you want this kind of build, single minion necro boom boom, don't mess with anything else, right? What else? Okay, another thing is that they have also introduced Ore of Decay, which actually gives us a lot of really good things for minions. Obviously, we have the 75% more poison damage, so if you want to make a poison army build, this is something that I would recommend you to explore. You're going to struggle with the skeleton survivability, etc., but it's something to explore. And the best part of all is that you can actually get, you know, the conversion to, instead of poison resistance, to physical resistance. This is going to be very popular on Acolyte in general, but basically, you know, you're going to be side by side with your Abomination, who does physical damage, right? You don't want to make necrotic damage. You don't want to convert to Rip of the Damned or whatever. You want to stay on double strike because it's physical. And the reason for that is because you get the 100 penetration from Aura of Decay, and you also get the 50% more physical damage from Merciless on Bone Curse. If you don't do physical damage, you don't have access to those, okay? So that's why this build, it was already super dominant, and now it's like giga dominant. So again, enough about Abomination. Let's move to other Necromancer builds. So the next Necromancer build that it's a bit of a classic of mine, you know, I really like it, is the Flame Wraiths. This build has actually got quite better this patch. I wasn't expecting it after I like went in and like did a bit of investigation. You know, first of all, you have the new amulet that gives you +2 skill super easily. You have flat crit, so you don't need to build the old amulet that gave you crit, you know, the one from the shamans. So Logi's Hunger, you don't need to do that. And, you know, you have the new Exsanguinous chest piece thingy that, you know, gives you a bunch of attributes. It gives you health. It gives you, this is going to give you a shit ton of sustain, basically, which the build kind of could struggle with in terms of tankiness. You have the damage reflection, etc. You didn't get really nerfed by the changes on Dreadshade because you were never really building for egoism. So again, this build overall is going to be pretty great. And on top of that, we are now able to grab the damage over time multiplier here, an extra multiplier, and some points in the damn chance, because now on the passive tree, not only we're getting a lot of flat damage by building the skill tree, but we're also getting actually a lot of ignite and damn chance. And again, this is not going to be our main damage, but you got to keep in mind that a lot of the damage multipliers on your Wraiths are generic. It's generic necrotic damage, generic damage, etc. So again, when you have like, you know, almost 20 Wraiths attacking, you know, this ignite and damn chance is going to stack up. And it's going to do, you know, on a single target, it's going to ramp up a lot. So I expect the damage of this build to go up by like 50% just from this. And all the, you know, great changes to the tree. We get tankier, we know, because we have so many minions. We stack a lot of armor shred super easily. On top of that, now this node gives us the skeleton vanguard on kill chance and on death. You know, which is this is amazing because when our Wraiths die or when our zombies die, you know, we have this node in zombie that is going to keep resummoning other zombies. So, you know, we don't, you know, we're actually making all of this build just work much better. We have increased crit chance per intelligence, which we were getting anyway. You know, we get additional cast speed and minion spell damage that we didn't get before. We can get them frenzy for a full 5 seconds without any other investment. So again, I do suspect this build to do much better. The downside of this build, contrary to the Abomination, is that it requires 0 setup, 0 snapshot, but it's actually pretty click intensive to play. So again, if you want to see some gameplay, we have some gameplay. I'm not going to show it here to not make the video 20 hours. But again, this build, you know, got much better. So highly recommend it. You need the idols to play the build. So it's not a starter. You need the idols. So keep that in mind. Necromancer leveling is still going to be a bit of a, you know, highly recommend just doing it on Warlock and then switch. But, you know, it's up to you. Good luck with that. What else? Okay, a lot of people have been asking about skeletons, etc., etc. I mean, from what it looks like, right, the best version of skeletons you can probably play right now is the version that does either like poison rogues, scaling the damage over time stuff, or just like regular crit rogues with physical damage, where you basically take this node and you convert all the melee physical to throwing physical, you convert to rogues on the skeleton tree. But again, the problem with these minions is that they tend to be very squishy, so it's a build that might work, but you know, eventually you're just gonna wonder why are you not playing Wraiths, or why are you not playing Abomination, or why you're not playing Beastmaster. So again, you can play skeletons, they're a bit better, but you know, they didn't really get changes on their tree themselves. So again, without massive changes there, you know, the best thing their skeletons are at is at summoning Abomination, sadly. So let's move to Beastmaster. So Beastmaster has gotten a very, 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 very insane amount of buffs, and some of them have been actually like just you know, some of these buffs are gonna make certain builds do double the damage and things like that. The passive tree has also got a bit of a rehaul, and to be honest, everything on the rehaul is pretty much better. There's not a single thing that got worse for our particular builds. So yeah, I mean, the only thing that is actually gonna be tricky is what those aspects for the links for companion builds in general. For those who don't know, aspect of the links used to give us 100% increased crit chance. Increased, right? So for a build like the bear, you know, that has, you know, 18% base crit chance because it's 12 plus 5, right, from the base, right, 17, sorry. For a build like that, you know, suddenly you get 100% crit chance just from that, and, you know, boom, you just double your crit, and now you're almost at 50% crit chance without zero investment, just with aspect of the links, right? And, you know, if you also get your chest piece, you get your flat crit there, now your flat crit is, you know, almost, you know, 30%. So just with aspect of the links, you are getting to 60% crit. This is no longer the case. They have basically removed all the increased crit chance from all the trees. You know, Saber-tooth used to have increased crit chance here. Now it's flat crit. Raptor used to have increased crit chance and more crit chance on the tree right here, and you no longer have it. And instead, you got flat crit chance. So again, they have given all the single companions and all the companions a lot of flat crit, but you don't have increased crit. So this is something that, in order to cap your crit, so your minions really go hard, and you 100% want to go crit, you don't want to be doing dots on these three companions, on Saber-tooth, on Raptor, and on Bear. And the reason for that is because of the rework on aspect of the shark and primal aspects, okay? So aspect of the shark now gives you more damage instead of increased damage, more damage per stack. You can get 5 stacks, right? And not only that, but you can also get additional aspect of the shark effect through this passive for your companions and through idols. You know, we have it here on the idols. You can get aspect of the shark on the idols with the minion cooldown, so they're perfect for the earthquake build, right? On top of that, you know, you can also use increased effect on other places. And we're gonna get into that, okay? Let's get into one big thing that we have to address. The crit chance, like I was talking about. You are going to need inheritance of the erased if you want to comfortably cap your crit chance on your minion without scuffing your build completely. There is some things you can do in the early game. You know, if you go into the planner and you check like the starting gear, you will see that the skills change, right? That means like when you're starting the build, when you don't have good gear, when you don't have this, you know, you don't have like this good gear and stuff, you are going to need to use Warcry for crit chance. Now, Warcry has a 5-second cooldown by default, with this node, sorry. And it gives us 100% increased crit. Again, it's only 100% increase, so you're gonna need way more than 100% increase if you wanna crit all the time with these companions. So if you're watching builds and they're getting their crit just from Battle Cry or whatever, be very concerned, because those builds are not capped crit. And if you're playing a build that is playing Earthquake, and the Earthquake is not critting all the time, it's gonna feel horrible, okay? And this is the reason why we kind of like made the build really around solving crit as easy as possible. So that way we don't have to invest into crit chance on idols. I've seen a lot of people do crit chance on idols, you know, and all that. Because if you do that, then you don't have the aspect of the shark, you don't have the cooldown, you don't have all of these things that are necessary to scale your damage to the S tier bracket that we're trying to achieve. So this is very important, okay? Inheritance of the erased. If you get a tier 7 crit chance inheritance of the erased, you don't need anything else. And remember, this amulet drops every time you do a tomb or whatever, you know, it drops, right? It drops like the little boss at the end of the tombs and the cemeteries. He always drops this. So again, every time you see this one, just like, you know, throw it, you know, evolve it with the runes and try to get the increased crit chance, right? And again, if you get this, you know, your crit chance is just going to be solved and you're going to be happy as long as you have the tier 7 crit chance also on your chest piece, which is 100% the slam. You're going to want on all of these companions. You're always going to go for the tier 7 crit chance on the chess piece, right? I'm explaining this first because all these builds share this problem, okay? For Bear, obviously, it's extremely important because, you know, the Earthquake is going to be a significant cooldown, so you want to make sure that when it goes off, it counts, right? Okay, a lot of people are going to ask why some builds are Clever Solution, why some builds are Apogees. Apogees are basically for damage when we don't need, we have enough attributes for red rings. If you don't have red rings, obviously you play with the version without the red rings. I don't want to see comments about that, you know. And when we don't have enough attributes, or we're going to be kind of tight on attributes depending on our rolls, etc., you're just better off, you know, grabbing the Clever Solution, getting the +1 skills, crafting the minion affixes, and just solving your attributes that way. The attribute stacking is going to be especially strong if you use the Raptor, the T-Rex relic, which obviously gives you penetration for your physical minions. If you stack intelligence, yeah, right? You give your minions 20% of that penetration. So this is going to be great for something like Raptor Pack, for squirrels, this kind of builds, okay? But, why are we not using the Raptor, the T-Rex relic, on the Bear and the Saber-tooth? And the reason we're not using that is because, unfortunately, Inherence of the Erased, it gives you a buff, and that buff it what makes your minion get the stats, right? And this buff doesn't get stolen by what they call temporary minions, right? So, for example, the idols from bees from belt, those kind of minions won't steal ever, as long as your bear is alive or your Saber-tooth. They're not gonna steal the buff from the Inheritance of the Erased. But unfortunately, the T-Rex does, right? And as you can imagine, if we are using this amulet to solve for crit chance, and you know, our T-Rex is stealing it, and it makes us lose all our damage, whatever mathematically the T-Rex could give you goes out the drain, because you basically lose all your crit chance on a crit build. So this, when I find this out, I was a bit depressed because I made the builds around this, and you know, I already published the bear build, for example. I gave a disclaimer about this, of course, because I know this could happen. But we have found this as a solution, which is Reliquary Nest of Life. So Reliquary Nest of Life, it gives you a shit ton of stats. It will obviously make you very, very tanky, especially once you get into the aspirational gear of things and you have a lot of HP. Obviously, the endurance threshold is going to go extremely hard, right? It's going to go really crazy. It has pretty low LP, only 60, so 2 LP is basically guaranteed. You know, if you keep buying this item on the shop, we'll see how expensive it is, right, and how accessible it is. But it should be easy to get for someone who grinds. And the reason this item is extremely good is because it gives you 60% increased idol effect on non-uniques. Obviously, we're not using any unique idols, so all of our idols get 60% effect. This applies to cooldown idols, right? This applies to Aspect of the Shark. This applies to HP. This applies to minion attack speed, you know, vitality, the health regen. So the amount of value that we're actually getting from this relic for these particular builds, it's insane, because minion attack speed and minion cooldown is not something you can just build, right? You can always get more flat damage with an extra tier 7. You can always get more increased damage if you drop your red rings and you go full damage, you know what I'm saying? But minion cooldown is something that you just can't build, right? So basically this relic is giving you an extra cooldown idol, an extra shark idol. And remember, shark is attack speed, is more damage, is shred effect, etc, etc. And the cooldown is gonna make it so, or earthquake, instead of having 40% cooldown reduction, it's gonna have 60% cooldown reduction. You know, imagine, you know, suddenly your bear suddenly gets boots with tier 5 cooldown. It's gonna be very, very substantial, especially to make the build feel good, and, you know, to not have downtime and don't have to micromanage the Warcry resetting the charges of Earthquake as much. So again, very, very, very strong. Again, for the same reason, on the builds that we are not doing T-Rex, I highly, highly, highly recommend eventually to switch to a Maelstrom setup, right? The reason we're doing Maelstrom setup here is because Maelstrom is going to give us a lot of flat damage, right? Basically how this works is like for the duration that the Maelstrom has, every time you cast a Maelstrom, even if you can only have one active, for every time it's actually casted, you get a 4 melee necrotic damage buff. And for that reason, the T-Rex relic actually, doesn't, that you're kind of getting for the fist damage and the fist pen and all that. Everything related to physical suddenly is less appealing because your damage is going to start getting hybrid and hybrid. And for that same reason, we focus more on flat damage on the weapons rather than in penetration, because the penetration would split the damage. Again, if this sounds a bit too complicated for you, you can always go back to the starting build, play full physical, and play with this setup for these skills instead. Okay, that's the only thing that changes. You change the boots. You change these warpath points, you go, instead of here, you put them here, and then you spec Maelstrom instead, okay, of Frenzy Totem. That's the only difference. But, for example, on Raptor, we don't do that, because obviously we have Raptor. We need attributes, because we're not able, to get as many attributes as the other builds, so we go for a Mountain Boot to solve our attributes when it comes to, Red Ring, with Clever Solution, etc. Right? Again, with this build, you actually get a lot of value from Frenzy Totem because having a lot of companions, a lot of minions going on, makes it so the enemies are less likely to actually kill the Frenzy Totem, which is one of the reasons I highly recommend going for the Maelstrom setup for the single minion builds. Because again, if you only have your bear and the totem, chances your totem gets targeted, from an enemy that is close to it, are way higher than if the totem is completely surrounded, by raptors that are going all directions, and there's like, stranded enemies that could just like one-shot your totem by mistake. Again, especially if you have ambitions to kill Uber Aberoth with these builds, which all can, especially these two, the bear and the Saber-tooth. I already done it before the buffs, right? So if I can do it before the buffs, you're for sure going to be able to do it after the buffs. Again, highly, highly, highly recommended to play these builds. Again, Bear, this build was already pretty popular. I played it last patch. It's been playable for like since the game exists pretty much, and it's just very powerful. Like I said, the minion cooldown has very, very good effect because you can get more swipes, because swipe is also locked behind cooldown. So you're gonna be able to get swipe almost every half a second now. He's gonna be stacking aspects of the Panther, to make sure he keeps up the attack speed and the more damage. You could put more points here if you had them, and it's very, very important that you get a source of slow, which is the reason why we convert Maelstrom to slow. So you're always slowing the enemies, so that way your swipe is always gonna be doing the 60% more damage for your bear too. For the same reason, on the passives, we grab the chill chance on Shaman, right? Very important. So we make sure that Earthquake is always attacking chilled enemies to get the full damage. Very important, to get the chill and the slow this way, so we can build the extra multiplier here instead of pathing down, which is not great. Okay, you lose a lot of damage if you do that. And yeah, overall, highly recommend taking the pull instead of the knock. You have a bear that does Earthquake, you're gonna go in, you're gonna pull the enemies into you, and then the bear is gonna Earthquake. It's just gonna make the clearing and the quality of the life of the build feel amazing. And overall, this build, again, I'm expecting to see some screenshots of this Earthquake, because keep in mind, both multipliers apply to the bear. I'm expecting to see some crazy shit. Fairly tanky build, especially once you get the relic and you start stacking the life. We have the mana, Seed of Yggdrasil, that which regenerate mana with swipe or selves. So again, this build gets pretty fucking nasty, basically, and really tanky, So again, overall, this is probably the best Beastmaster build of the patch. Again, it has the downside that is just a single companion, and a lot of people don't like this. But in terms of damage, in terms of like how impressive it's gonna be, in terms of like you're gonna play it, you're gonna, if you're a new player, you're watching this, you make this build, you get the fucking crit chance situation solved, and the moment you get your crit chance situation solved, you're gonna see some big crits you probably haven't seen before. We're talking millions of damage by this guy, millions of damage, okay? After the bear, you know, we have Saber-tooth. You know, Saber-tooth, it's very similar to everything that I explained, but we are focusing on full cold conversion, and, you know, we're using the Epoches because the Epoches make you do more cold damage and more necrotic damage, right? Which obviously we're getting necrotic through this, so these swords are allowing us to scale both the cold and the necrotic, and they give us, you know, 24% more damage each one, right? They give us +3 to the Saber-tooth each one, so it's +6. And on top of that, we get the temporal buff, you know, the Frozen Vengeance, which is also very, very, very powerful, which is going to allow us to do more damage because we're going to be having an idol with beasts. So, you know, while we're mapping, the beasts die. Where we're bossing, the boss kills the beasts. We get the buff, so we can do even more damage, right? For the idols, again, we go full attack speed. We must feed one of these bee idols to make sure we proc the swords. And just like I explained on the previous build, you know, if you don't want to do the Maelstrom setup, you can do the Frenzy Totem setup, but it is much more damage to do the Maelstrom setup. So yeah, the main change on Saber-tooth, as I explained, is that they removed the increased crit chance now, so we have to get crit through Inheritance of the Erased once again. And, you know, the same thing goes for the idols. Imagine, you know, if normally the idols are giving you, you know, 16, 24, 24, 16. So again, these idols are giving us, you know, 100% increased attack speed, melee attack speed. Now, you know, we're going to be getting 160, right? So it is, again, it's not, and the regen for all self, because we're stacking, you know, with swipe, we're stacking the aspect of the tool regen, etc. Again, this build is going to be very, very high regen, very, very high damage, and the most fun part of all, it might actually have clear now, thanks to the upheaval proc. Again, upheaval also converts to cold, just like the Saber-tooth itself. You know, we convert to cold, we do more damage against shields. We always get shields through Maelstrom. We don't need the slow anymore, like in the bear, because we're doing cold damage, and we don't need the slow for swipe, because we're using swipe just for utility and for mana generation, and to stack aspect of the Panther for the crit multi for the Tiger. And again, we convert to cold. We get the upheavals. I am kind of like torn between using this node or this node. This used to be way more damage, so it was always worth using. But maybe this is actually quite nice while mapping. We gotta see how, you know, how this leap actually feels, and because sometimes when you give animations to minions, you know, they start leaping and you actually lose DPS because the fucking cat is doing a backflip animation. It's like, yo, bro, you have 200 attack speed. Stop doing backflips and attack, you know, stupid cat. So we'll see. I'll play with this. I'll see what you guys think if you play this build, and if you guys say, hey, the fucking leap feels horrible, we're just gonna take this point off and put it here, just so you know. As you can see, we can get a lot of points for this build, which is, you know, something that people really like. And again, we just like have a lot of points on the gear. You know, we get +2 from the chest piece. We get +3 from here, +3 from here. We get +4 on the relic. It is a lot of fucking skill points, and we get another one from the passive tree, right, on the new node. Again, the same thing. We're stacking shark. We're stacking damage. This is gonna be really good. And again, Saber-tooth, the faster he attacks, and this is one of the reasons why we're, instead of going for the T-Rex, we're going for this relic. The faster he attacks, yeah, which is why we're stacking attack speed idols and shark and all these things, and we're building attack speed basically everywhere we can for the minion, because this attack speed will apply to him, right? The faster he attacks, well, the faster he's gonna have 20% chance to proc, you know, the flurry swipes and the upheavals. And again, this is not capped. So if you get lucky and this 20% chance procs 3 times in a row, he's just gonna do boom, 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 and he's gonna do that. Just like these abilities also, like flurry swipes doesn't have an animation, it just happens on top of his auto attack. We will see what the upheaval feels like. Again, this could potentially be a really fun build. DPS wise, probably depends on, again, if upheaval happens automatically and he doesn't actually do an animation, this might actually be very, very fucking good damage comparable to the bear, but we don't know that, so bear looks to be the king of DPS so far, but we will see. Again, really, really good. Be aware with this Ancestral Hunter. For the longest time, Ancestral Hunters haven't inherit any of the multipliers here. I think getting 1 point is worth it, just because, you know, while you're clearing and stuff, it helps. Why not? You know, they can apply elements and things like that. Sorry, they can kill trash and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's worth putting 1 point here, especially early on, while you don't have crit and you're building up your character. But it's not worth going all in on this. The only reason this would be good is like if your build does so little damage, then, you know, even if they do little damage, a lot of little damage feels like a big increase. But the only reason it feels like an increase is because the damage was very little. This build is going to be doing millions and millions of DPS. My current Saber-tooth, the one I have on YouTube, was doing 30 million DPS with endgame gear, right? So just 1 LP items and stuff, nothing too crazy. I mean, red rings, if you know what you're doing, you know you're not hard to do. And again, if you don't have the red rings, you do the same, but with this, right? Whatever. And I suspect he's going to get at least this patch a 50% damage increase minimum with the minion power buffs, and he got the tree nerfed a bit, this guy, in comparison to before. He lost a bit of damage, but the upheaval proc, which inherits all the multipliers, right, which are not, you know, they're good multipliers, you know, because you convert it to cold, so he is gonna inherit the cold damage multiplier from the swords. You are gonna get the 40% multiplier and doesn't scale with attack speed, but you don't care, because you're not attacking with it, right? He's gonna proc through his basic attack, so this note is actually 0 downside, basically, for the cat. You have another 40% damage here, you have another 100% damage if you're close range, which obviously he will be close range because the cat just goes in, right? So again, and this goes on top of the multipliers he has on history, you know, this damage multiplier, you know, this damage multiplier, etc, etc. So the aspect of the shark multiplier, all of that, right? So again, I expect this guy to be, like, again, an absolute bomb of a build, okay? So again, if you want to be a bit more of a hipster, if you're more of a, you know, cat person, you know, instead of a bear person, you could feel comfortable playing this build. It should feel pretty good. But, you know, it takes way more points in the passive tree. Compared, you know, you have to unlock it, so yeah, but very, very, very good build. Yeah, they're very, very similar, but there's some differences. Okay, those are the best builds, in my opinion, for Saber-tooth. And then we go back to the Raptors, you know? I mean, I always been, I'm gonna be honest here, guys, the single builds, the single minions, you know, Abomination, Bear, Saber-tooth, these builds are gonna still be much better when it comes to DPS than the minion packs. But I mean, bro, we have a T-Rex, we have to use it, so we made the Raptor build. Again, I would say this build is gonna probably feel better to play if you're a new player and you're doing low corruption, because it's gonna have enough damage to kill everything. You're gonna have a lot of Raptors going on, which is gonna feel great, and, you know, the fantasy and all that shit. The T-Rex has great synergy with this build. You know, all the items you're using, you're getting super benefit. You can use the new amulet. Like, this is probably the easiest build to gear from all of them, right? And the easiest build to play from all of them. We don't do the Maelstrom stuff, you know. It's the most noob-friendly build by far. But just know that it's weaker, okay? I don't want to lie to you. I don't want to say to you, yeah, go for this build. It is way weaker than something like the Earthquake Bear. That doesn't mean it's a bad build. If it was a bad build, it wouldn't be on the tier list. It wouldn't be on max roll. We wouldn't be doing it, right? But just know that, okay? So again, for this build, we kind of look like the opposite of the others, right? We go for the T-Rex. We are still going to go for, obviously, the idols. We don't really care about their cast speed. We just want them to attack. But as you can see, because we don't have access to the amulet that I mentioned, Inheritance of the Erased, we're going to have to solve our crits through our lovely, lovely idols, which is not ideal, right? Because that means we're dedicating crit chance to idols. If we dedicate crit chance to idols, it means we don't have attack speed, right? So again, you probably want to be doing half and half, maybe, you know, half crit, half attack speed. I have planners with everything, right? But yeah, just be aware that the crit chance situation, it's much worse than before, and you must get the 15 flat crit chance on chest piece. That's pretty much on all these builds. Okay. Again, really good build, real cool. This, you know, this amulet is super strong. New addition is basically Nihil is for free. You get this every time you kill beasts. Well, when you not when you kill beasts, but when a beast reaches the end of his lifetime, you know, because you can evolve a beast, evolve a beast, evolve a beast, and then it's over and you start a new beast. So when a beast is over, he always drops this thing, apparently, based on the data mine. So it should be pretty easy to get, right? And it gives you an extra beast on top of that, so your pack is going to be even bigger. Again, another thing that I want to talk about this, now that we're talking about the crit chance, is that there is potentially like a technologia, right? A technologia where instead of going for swipe, or instead of going for Fury Leap early, what you can do is you can actually spec a wolf. I might probably include a planner with this. And what you would do with this wolf is that you see here that there is you have an additional wolf companion of all times, and this wolf does not count towards your companion limit, right? This wolf does not count towards your companion limit. So the plan would be, you know, to make like some sort of like support wolf kind of, right? Where you would like path towards this node one way or the other. You don't want him to die, right? So we will see exactly how we path. I'll make sure I include in the planner once this is done. But you would get this additional wolf companion, and the idea is that you would summon all your raptors, and then you would summon a wolf, yeah? And this wolf, you're gonna spec it home completely for full attack speed, yeah? And you're also gonna give him the ability to proc Howl when fighting and killing things, right? So the idea is that because you're building him full attack speed and stuff, yeah, and he has 4% chance to howl on boss hit, and you know he's gonna be attacking quite good. What you're gonna be is like on your frenzy totem, you're actually gonna not spec these nodes here for area and duration and all this bullshit, and you're gonna spec for lead the pack. Lead the pack gives you 250% increased crit chance. So in theory, if we do this, we should be able, you know, to solve for crit at least early game, and by doing that, we should be able to also be able to build more crit chance. The question is, I don't know how this node is gonna work, because I've heard, right, there's rumors in the community that unless you have maximum wolves, right, the ability on your bar, you know, the howl, doesn't appear, right? Like, you know, when you put a minion on your bar, if you don't have all your wolves, you know, the little logo you have on your skill bar, this thing, it doesn't change, right? It doesn't go to the red, to the actual ability. So people are speculating that if you do as the single wolf, they might not be able to do their ability. And I don't quite believe this. Well, what I think it's going to be is that you're not going to be able to activate the ability manually, right? Because if you do that, basically you're going to cast another wolf and you're going to fuck up your raptors. But I think what might happen is that you cannot manually cast it, but he can still proc it himself. So this is the technologia for raptors, you know, that's a world first right here. And again, I'm going to include this wolf thing in the planner. Because and you know, if the moment the patch hits this works, I'm just gonna implement it directly into the guide, so it's not confusing and you don't have to come to this video to know this. But just know that if at the moment you look at the planner and you don't see this that I'm explaining in the video, it's just because I'm waiting for confirmation in game that this works, because I wouldn't want to mislead a lot of players and then, you know, bait them into a build that doesn't work or something like that. That's very I don't know, that nobody likes doing that, right? So yeah, for at the same time, for that reason, because of this frenzy, because of this nerf on crit chance overall, increased crit chance onto Beastmaster, a very good option is to basically play the Raptor build but instead of raptors, just do squirrels early on, right? So you would just play squirrels like always, you know. I am probably gonna update the squirrels just so you guys have it. We had it on max roll for a long time, right? I just have to update it. And, you know, they're going to be, I think, in theory, they're going to be doing less damage than the Raptors. But, you know, it's still going to be a really good build. They're going to have a very, very good crit chance. And, you know, like, you know, there's squeaking and stuff. It's a fun build. So you might be able to start wolves. And the moment you get, you know, and if we confirm that the moment you get the sword, basically, and we confirm that you can keep one wolf for support, we will basically switch into the crit wolf support setup, so your raptors go absolutely fucking ham. And yeah, I mean, there's potential builds that I'm exploring that I have theory crafted, but we don't have a written guide yet. So I want to give a quick shout out to some of these builds. Mainly the build that I have left to do that I'm really exploring, that in paper it looks pretty fucking good, is Scorpion. And with this build, what you do is that you give him the ability to cast Maelstrom, right? He gains Maelstrom when you do. So basically you build Maelstrom, you know, with Warcry and Lagrange, so you can build a lot of Maelstroms, right? You go into Maelstrom, you spec these points, you build duration, right? And then you basically make it so you go for the full damage on Maelstrom, right? You would have to get obviously plus points on Maelstrom. You don't care about the mana, but you would build all the points in Maelstrom, all the full damage. And the idea is that every time you cast Maelstroms, the Raptor is going to get the Maelstroms. You're going to build into the damage, the more damage over time, right? Because it has a lot of very good multipliers for damage over time. You're going to build into the more cold damage. And technically, and you on your weapons, you're gonna be building like you could build Apogee, of course, right? Because Apogee comes with minion cold damage, right? And then you're gonna be casting, you're gonna be crafting spell, right? Spell damage with overtime minion damage, right? And again, this build in theory should be pretty good. But again, it's quite experimental. I'll see if I have time to get it done. As you can probably tell, I haven't slept much in the last few days. But just keep an eye on the Scorpion build, because I theory crafted this when the patch notes dropped with on stream. And, you know, I haven't got time to do it yet, because, again, I have to update all the old stuff and shit. But again, keep an eye on this build, and I'll let you guys know if it's done. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. And I hope you have a great minion season. Because, yeah, it's going to be one to remember.